Hi, I'm Patrick Giguere, the Cosmic Alchemist. Thanks very much for tuning into this video. And some quick admin here. If you have not already, and you like my videos and you like my content, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving me a comment. When you do all these things, the channel does better, and I'm able to make more videos, better videos, more interesting videos. As far as the comments go, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You know, if you just leave like a thumbs up and, you know, a thanks or something, the comments actually bump the videos up in the whole search algorithm. So, thanks either way. So, I want to get to the point of this video. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't mentioned this subject already, but you know, it's like I was telling a couple people, I've learned and seen and really heard a lot of crazy shit in the last 20 plus years. So I've kind of forgotten a lot of it. You know, it's like I've heard so much, I've heard and seen and learned, and so much I've forgotten a lot of it. You know, and I'm not trying to promote myself, you know, and, you know, say how shit hot I am, but it's just how it is, you know. When even when kind of craziness becomes commonplace, you just kind of, it all kind of blends in, and you know, you forget it, and it goes into the back of your mind. So the thing I want to talk about here is a conversation I had back in 2005. It was in, I think it was in April, maybe early May in 2005. You know, I mentioned before, I was a naval intelligence officer for a few years. Didn't make a career of it, just a few years, and just wanted to go my own way for various reasons. Intelligence community can be a really dirty business, and I learned this, and I'm doing other stuff now. But anyway, this conversation, it gave me some, you know, about 15 years in advance, it gave me some warning of the plague we've had, and the health emergency, and more importantly, the very experimental and adventurous therapy or remedy, syringe-borne remedy to this, the health emergency, that has a very ambiguous nature to it and kind of a dubious legal status. So basically it was April, May 2005. I was in northern Nevada. I was at Naval Air Station Fallon. Fallon, Nevada's up in northern Nevada. It's not just an airfield. You know, it is the home to the Top Gun school for the Navy. But it's not just an airfield. It's a big, giant training reservation. Oh wow, pretty amazing hawk. It just flew over me. Huge. Anyway, it's not just an airfield, you know, it's not just the air component, but all kinds of training goes on there, even like land training and a lot of computer kind of based simulation training. So it's out in the middle of the desert, few hours from Reno. It's further from Lake Tahoe. So not a lot in the nearby area. One of the things in the area to do is drink. So I spent a lot of nights in that officers club at Fallon. And I think it was a weeknight. I remember being in there. Spent a lot of weeknights in there too. Remember being in there on a weeknight, and kind of a slower night, not as many people, only the real committed beer drinkers are in there. So I remember some people I was with leaving or going somewhere else or whatever the hell, and I'm walking, and I'm walking by a table, and there's a guy there, and he's just kind of sitting there on his own with a pitcher of beer, and there's some empty glasses, and I think he'd been talking to some people earlier. And I'm walking by, and I think my gaze just kind of swept past him, and he was just kind of like, said something to get my attention. He was like, "Hey man." Well, I was like, "Oh hey." And he's like, "You want a beer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I sat down, had a glass with me, and so it turns out he was an intelligence officer. He was a Navy guy, probably like 15 years into his career. He was a lieutenant commander. Been doing it a while. Kind of your typical kind of, most intelligence people are pretty nondescript. He was kind of that type, average height. So I start talking to him, and and he's just telling me sea stories, stories about stuff he'd done in the intelligence community, and the stuff he's telling me is like just getting crazier and crazier, and and it sounds like stuff from out of movies, but the real world is like that. Education and academia and publishing and the news media, they make everything very boring, but really the world is fucking nuts, and the reality of what military and government and corporations get up to, intelligence services, the reality of what they get up to is pretty fucking insane. But boredom is a major tool for controlling the world, because you make everything so boring that people stop paying attention, and they go watch ball games, they go watch sports, and they get drunk, and they watch stupid shows on TV. So anyway, this guy's just telling me crazier and crazier shit as the conversation goes on. Stuff in Iraq about, oh yeah, and we were running this operation where the guns were getting sent to the militias and the Al-Qaedas, and we were trying to see who they would give them to, and it's stuff like that, and it's just like, wow, that sounds like a bad idea. Maybe you could have stopped them from getting them. But that's not even the point here. So we're having these crazier and crazier conversations, and probably towards the end of the night, I don't know, maybe anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before we went our separate ways, he says to me, "Hey, there's something I want you to remember." And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, what is it?" I value information. So he goes, "So eventually," he said, "eventually there's going to be some sort of a health emergency or a pandemic or, something of the sort." He goes, "When that happens, if the remedy for it, if the shot for it is not just one shot, but a series of shots, then stay away from it. It's bad news." He mentioned, he said, especially if it's a 3-shot thing, he said, but if it's any like multiple shot series, then stay away from it, because it's bad news. So, and just based on the guy's tone, the look on the guy's face, his body language, it really seemed like he was very serious. So, I remembered it, and probably for, I don't know, 2-3 years after that, I'd tell pretty much anyone who, seemed like they'd listen, and then I kind of just stopped talking about it, went into the back of my mind, and just really informed my attitude about getting shots, and kind of kept me on the lookout for it. And more I went from being a conscious thing to an unconscious thing. And it probably wasn't, you know, it came back to me, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. It really came back. You know, if you'd asked me, hey, has anyone ever told, you know, has anyone ever, back when you were in the service, did anyone ever say anything to you about, you know, about shots and, you know, multi-series shots, and, you know, if they're legit or if they're dangerous? It would have come right back to my mind. But, you know, like I said, you know, if you hear, see, and learn a lot of crazy shit, it's just, it all kind of blends together, and, you know, goes more into the back of your mind, and you kind of start forgetting it. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that's kind of recently come back to the forefront of my mind, to my conscious mind, and, you know, it's definitely done its part to inform my worldview. So, you know, I guess, you know, people even told me, man, you should have made a video about that when this whole health emergency started, you know, over a year ago. But I don't think it really would have. I don't think it's one of those things that would have stopped people from getting the remedy, from getting the shots, because people believe whatever the hell they want to believe. And the whole story I just told you just sounds totally insane. And that's a great way of hiding things, is just, again, you make life in the world seem so boring and matter of fact that anything that is crazy or wild or out of the ordinary just seems like bullshit, and it can just be dismissed and written off. So, you know, and I tell people all the time, you can't convince anybody of anything. That is a total fiction. That's a lie. You know, you can pass your point of view and your experience and your opinions on to people who are open to them, and that's about it. You're not going to convince anyone of anything. So, you know, when this whole emergency started and the remedies and the shots came out, people were going to do what they wanted to do, based on what level of fear they had and how much they were acting on that fear. So anyway, that's my whole story about that, my whole experience with that. You know, and the interesting thing is too, I've met people just in the last few months, people who had also been, you know, in military intelligence, or family members of people who've been in military intelligence, and they heard the same thing in more recent years, you know, actually much more in the last few years. You know, they even heard, hey, there's a whole health emergency pandemic thing, and there's going to be a remedy for it, a series of shots, and you know, you best stay away from it. So it's interesting to have my own experience corroborated by other people who heard the same thing at you know, totally different point in time. I heard this 16 years ago, and, you know, these other people have heard it, you know, within the last 2-3 years. So anyway, that's the story about that. Take it or leave it. It's not really up to me what you do with it, and I'm kind of not all that concerned what people do with the information, because I have my boundaries, and I respect your boundaries, and do what you will. Do what thou wilt, and that shall be the whole of the law. So, yeah, thanks for tuning into this one. If you want to get a Vedic astrology reading with me, I highly encourage you. It's a great way to navigate through life, through challenging times. It's a great way to see your hidden opportunities and talents and potential pitfalls, and just to get a whole different look on yourself, and really to confirm things you already knew, but, you know, may have not had a whole lot of you know, confidence about. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I also do rune readings, I Ching readings. I've got a couple downloads, video downloads for sale, some Qigong videos. Get a day practice, Thor's Hammer Qigong, fills your body and your aura with energy. Very empowering. And I've got celestial qigong and night practice. Helps with inspiration, helps to cleanse you, clean negativity and just kind of emotional refuse out of you. And it's called celestial because it gets you kind of connected to the stars and the planets and the energies and the consciousness of the celestials. So thanks again for tuning in, and you'll be hearing more from me. Have a good one.